We could just do a Jake Gyllenhaal month, so we have to watch
No, not a whole month. We unintentionally already did a whole month of Jake Gyllenhaal. Welcome to a very vibrant effing movie podcast.
Succulent,
Yeah.
if you will.
This is we're going green, guys. Welcome to the effing movie podcast. I'm your host today, Dylan Camacho. Today with me, Bryson Mason and Nathan.
Wait, are we hosts too, or are you just the only host now? Because we used to be like co-host. Now you're like, I'm the host with so-and-so.
Featuring. We're aspiring artists.
We're aspiring to be like Dylan on the award-winning podcast.
Yeah. Mason, what are we talking about today, buddy?
Talking about
Change the subject.
Rocky Horror Picture Show, I think. I don't know.
That feels right.
Yeah.
That feels right.
It's got that vibe.
It's not. It's Little Shop of Horrors.
No,
Oh.
I always
I
get
picked it.
mixed up.
Are you
That's
sure?
Weird.
I thought I just watched the worst version of Rocky Horror Picture Show.
A better
wild.
version. Actually, I've never seen that, so I don't know.
I haven't either.
It's pretty good. I mean, it's not like
pretty good.
It's
like
overrated for what it is.
Yeah, it's
but-
very overrated. It's a
Yeah.
very culty
But
thing.
it's
I'm
super
glad
culty.
I know that now.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to.
But if you want to talk culty 80 musicals, then Little Shop of Horrors falls right into this category, I guess. I don't know. I didn't know if there was a cult for this.
There is.
I'm sure there is. It makes sense.
Well, so this film is a film adaptation of a book that was adapted into a movie a very long time ago and then became a very popular stage play that then was later turned into a musical based on the stage play that was based on the
I need
movie
a graph
and
for
the
this.
book that came before.
So,
Long history.
all right. All that is to say, stop it. Our deaf fans are going to get upset at you. You don't want to know what you're saying. It's butt to butt, in case you're wondering. So,
Nothing gets accomplished.
anyway, you're the one that signed it, buddy. So, I'm gonna do a summary for this movie.
Okay.
Why do you get to do it?
Rick Moranis?
Yep.
Yeah, Rick Moranis finds a plant. He's a foster kid who lives in a
Little
basement
China.
in
Yep.
Little China during an eclipse. It's all very important. It has a whole song. He feeds it blood. It starts eating people. It makes him great, and then it makes him terrible. And then, depending on the ending, I guess, he gets eaten, and his girlfriend / sister-in-law, kinda.
What?
Or like, isn't
No!
No, I'm just playing. Yeah. So anyway, his, I guess, soon-to-be wife gets eaten. He gets eaten. Then the world gets eaten.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
We'll talk about the different endings, because he kind of glanced over, like, there's the scene in the shop where the fight happens between, we're going to call him Ricky from here on. Ricky
His name is
and
Seymour.
the plant.
It
Well, it is
Seymour.
Seymour. That's
isn't it?
easy.
Yeah,
That's easy
easier,
enough.
yeah.
Literally,
Sorry, I was
they
going to call him
say
by his
that song,
actor's name.
like in
Hey,
6 different songs.
Shut your freaking face.
We always forget character names on this show.
Yes, we
But
do.
they sang it a billion times.
Suddenly Seymour. But the scene where Seymour and the plant are finally going at it, he's like, I'm going to leave. And then there's 2 different endings based on which one you watch. We'll get into that later. We need to go through like the rest of the movie first. But to start it off, what did you all think of it overall? What's our beginning into this discussion?
I won't lie.
You shouldn't lie
I'm gonna
on here.
oversimplify it.
Don't lie.
I'm gonna oversimplify it right off the bat.
Tell the truth.
Here's the most honest opinion I can give it.
All right.
It's a musical. I didn't care for the music. That's a rough start for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
That's like your opinion, man.
it's the
I
truth.
really liked the music. I like that doo-wop kind of
Doo-wop?
deal. I really like the
Dun-dun.
little was like a quartet. Or-
Yeah, the barbershop
yeah,
quartet.
the
kind of stuff.
tri-tet.
Yeah.
They were really neat.
The black girls.
They
going
could
through
really
it.
sing.
Yeah, they're
Oh,
good.
yeah.
They're good.
Obviously.
But actually, I don't know. Tritets are like instruments. I don't know what that would be called. A trio?
Just
Trio.
a trio.
Just a trio.
Anyway.
We
Yeah,
did it.
There's a trio of singers that
Yeah.
were both the lead and like the background singers
Mm-hmm.
through the entire movie. Like pretty much every single song I think included them singing, and they were interspersed between like this movie does a lot of the reality of the world and then the like musicalness of the world, and it's very fast and loose with what you're in. Are you in the musical? Well, then they're singing and suddenly people are dressed up in ways that don't make sense in Skid Row, or you're in the real world and everybody's just drab and dreary.
Yeah. And like talking about the trio or whatever, I mean that's after like the old Greek plays that had I forgot what
The
that I
Muses.
should know that
Yeah,
the
the
Muses,
Yeah.
just like that.
It's
the-
Hercules.
It's the same, yeah, Hercules.
It's Hercules.
It's
the
exactly the
Muses
same
from
thing.
Hercules.
Well, technically, I
Exactly.
guess this came before
Yeah.
Hercules. So Hercules
That kind of
is-
form because the music styles are very different between
Yeah.
the two, and I like that kind of music. Period. Anyway, like I like that really old timey like doo wop kind of music, and the kind of soul. Like I would almost say like the Plant. The singer of the Plant like has that really kind of soul kind
He
of
was
voice,
from
and
the
I
Four
loved
Tops.
it.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
It's a group
Right.
from like the 60s, I think.
It was funny though. At the end of the movie, he got leading credit. At
Yeah.
the like before Ricky Moranis.
Yeah. And Bill Martin
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray
wasn't even mentioned.
Bill Murray not even mentioned.
Yeah, before
and
his
then
career really
Steve
took
Martin.
off, I
there we
think.
go. Yeah.
Or Steve Martin.
Yeah, Steve Martin.
You know,
But they're both in
It's
it.
funny
Yeah.
that that's before his career took off because I thought of that as a cameo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did
like,
too.
I was
Yeah.
like,
But
he had to have been. I don't.
And
this
especially
is-
with the way his character was acting, and it's like this is just such a like they thought it would be fun to put him in for
Right.
this, but
Well,
no, it's before he was even popular.
Is it
That's
before he really took off?
Ghostbusters?
Because when Shop of Horrors was 84, right?
What
I
about
think.
yeah?
it's
What
85.
about like
85?
Groundhog Day?
Yeah,
or-
Groundhog
So
Day.
this-
This isn't his heyday. It's all in the
Okay.
80s. If this is mid 80s, then this has to be Bill Murray's season still, right?
I didn't see him credited anywhere.
Well,
I
maybe
think he
he's fine. He
was.
probably just didn't care to get credited. Bill Murray is a wacky person. He just was like, "Oh yeah, this sounds fun." And then Steve Martin probably called him and he said, "Hey, I got a
Yeah,
spot."
he was even in Zombieland
I
for
know.
some reason.
Yeah.
So it's just like this sounds like fun.
Bill Murray's great. He's the kind of guy who probably goes with just the flow with that. But I do want to land right on that part, right? Because if you're talking about parts that really brought me into this movie, for a while I'm out of it. Like the music didn't line up for me for this musical, but Steve Martin as this maniacal sadist dentist as a character is really funny, and he crushes
His
it. Right?
intro song is hilarious. The dentist
Yeah,
song.
the dentist song is
Oh,
my favorite
man.
song, and I don't even know if I really enjoyed the music looking back on it, but I just loved him throughout the entire thing. Like the idea and concept is just great. But then I had a blast there, and then it's like a small lull, and then they introduced Bill Murray as like
Yep.
this masochist patient, and it is my favorite part of this movie, hands down.
Every time he sees him pulling out the tools, and he's like, "Whoa!"
Like, quivers a little bit.
I love that he's just getting in a chair prepping himself.
Yeah, he
like
knows
he's-
how it goes.
Yeah, sorry, I was with this other dentist. As he's leaving, I'm gonna tell all my friends about you. Get out of here! It is so solid. Like, and this is prime Bill Murray. This is mid '80s Bill Murray, but not only that, this is like maybe one of my favorite Bill Murray roles. Strangely enough, like he's just,
For the
Oh,
6
he's
minutes
so
he's in
good.
there.
for the
Yeah.
6-minute cameo scene that he has in this, he is magnetically fun to watch. Like, oh man, maybe it's just because I'm used to old Bill Murray now that like I've lost track of like younger, and this is probably like 30s, 40s
Yeah.
Bill Murray, mind you, but like 80s Bill Murray, I'm like, yeah, he's okay in that stuff. Ghostbusters okay, but Bill Murray in this movie, oh my god, it's so much fun.
And little trivia fact about the dentist. Apparently, I looked at the IMDb trivia right after this. There's a lot of interesting stuff on there. One of which was the dentist's office. The first idea was to have it splattered in blood. So there's apparently some shots of that somewhere, but it tested really bad with audiences. Like they got really freaked out by it. So they didn't use that version,
I mean,
of course.
dentistry is often something that makes somebody uncomfortable to begin with.
Yeah, those stark white walls were kind of off-putting though.
Yeah, they were a
themselves.
little sketchy.
Yeah, there was nothing on them. It was just white.
Yeah.
The picture of like the terrible mouth he has on hand, where it's just like, this is gonna be your mouth if anything happens.
And it's that hyena or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like clearly not even a human mouth at all. Like,
And then whenever he puts the whole like
Yeah.
gassing suit on, and like he turns back to look at it, and it's just like cackling at the picture.
you know what that reminded me of? That reminded me
Turkey.
of Charlie.
Aw.
And, Charlie and Always Sunny, when he goes to the dentist and he has like those terrible wire braces and
Yep.
stuff like that. Like, you just spitting everywhere. Yeah. That part of the movie is like, it's on a whole different level for me. For somebody who didn't enjoy it for a whole lot of the movie, this part just spikes above everything else.
And during that dentist song, I thought my favorite shot of the movie, and one of my favorite shots I've seen in a movie period in a long time, was during the dentist song. And I mean, of course, it's when like he's singing in the dentist's office, and then it has like you're looking out of the mouth of one of the patients
Oh, yeah.
And
with the
God,
trio
the huge
around him.
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool.
Like that was clearly something built to sit in front of the camera. Like
Yeah.
that thing was probably really big.
Yeah, this had to be like this wide to be mounted onto the thing. And
It was a
Oh,
view
yeah.
from inside of a mouth, but it was clearly like a handmade puppet.
It looked
Right.
like something from Double Dare.
Yeah.
It did,
crawl
yeah.
through
Yeah.
and
It could've-
slide down a tongue.
It
or
could have been a
something.
very
It was
easy
huge.
like Nickelodeon like featured
Yeah,
thing.
as I'll get into later, the director Frank Oz worked with
No,
Jim
Frank Oz
Henson.
is he's the Muppet dude.
Yeah,
He
he's
is the
like
puppet
one of
guy.
he's like the best puppet guy
I
Jim
didn't know this
Henson
was Frank
had.
Oz. That actually makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
he was a director, and he's the one who made all the decisions. Like as we'll get into later, he was the one who wanted the ending where everybody dies.
Yeah.
That's the one that they filmed originally, tested bad, so they made the other one. But yeah, he's the one who ran all this, and that's why, of course, the puppetry is incredible.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
and that whole ending sequence, if we want to get into that a little bit,
Yeah,
we can dig
that
in.
must have been a big part of the budget.
It had to have been.
Which
Like,
okay,
so
whi- which
much
which
destruction.
one? Okay, we need to go into which one is which.
The one where
Plants win.
where the plants win
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they destroy everything.
Now that's probably the one you haven't seen because the theatrical release was the one that had the ending where they get to
Seymour
the,
and them.
yeah,
kill
Seymour and them get to the happy ending, but there's a little plant at the end, and then the other version was the one that we're talking about where the plant Audrey 2 eats both of them and then takes over the world basically.
Yeah. Which I don't know. How did you guys feel about it? I can say up front like
Which one? You'll have to specify.
the plants
which one.
win ending. So that's the one I watched. I didn't see the good ending, I guess, but the plants win ending.
Right.
I wasn't a fan. Like, I think for me, this goes into like the character arc of like Seymour, and it just seems like by the time it's all said and done, that it's just like he's kind of just a bad person. Like, it seems like he let his greed and ambition get ahead of him, but then even then, this entire time, he still wanted to be with what's her face, and then
Yeah.
she gets eaten.
It's like so much of it makes you want to feel bad for him, but he is definitely being a bad person.
right, like
Yeah.
and that's a problem for me when you have a character you're supposed to be sympathizing and guilty with, but at the same time he's also technically the villain of the story if we're looking at like sure the plant is the antagonist all things considered and doing most of the killing I guess. Not all of it. Steve Martin kills himself and then
Yeah.
Seymour just chops him up, but yeah, then you have like him being the protagonist but also kind of the villain of the story because all this only happens because he just gets this plant and keeps feeding it and it just says, oh, I don't know what to do. Oh, I'm just gonna keep feeding people to it, you know, like. Also, side note, I want to say that the shop owner sees Seymour chopping up Steve Martin's dentist character, and then his idea, I'm gonna confront this axe murderer. What?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, he
Well,
knows
I mean,
him.
well, listen, I know he knows him, and there's
he's
probably
an
the power
orphan,
dynamic,
He's
but
like
Yeah, he
lives
took him
in
in a
the shop.
while.
He took
I
took
get
him
it.
in.
He's like a father figure.
I'm not
Yeah.
lost to that, but at the same time, if any one of the members on this podcast, I happen to just be walking down an alley one night and I see them chopping up a person, I probably don't bring it up. I probably don't ever talk to them that often. Much
But
further
it's like
after
his
that.
kid though, because like in the Skid Row song, he's
Right.
like he took him in.
So exactly to
when
your
he
point,
was an
he's like his
orphan.
kid, but we didn't get the sympathetic dad coming in and be like, hey, what in the world's going on? He went in and he's like, you killed somebody, I'm getting the cops, you're going to hell, like, which again is his parenting style, I get, but like, it just seems really aggressive for something that it's like, you're being really aggro on this axe murderer that you've just learned about.
I guess they just needed to move the story along.
Yeah.
Mason,
like-
what'd you think about the ending? Which one?
I enjoyed the theatrical one more. The one where Seymour actually ended up getting that picket fence yard.
Seymour's
and
the hero, everything works
Yeah,
out.
the plants winning. I thought about it after you sent that link, and like I like that ending okay, but if I just watched all of this movie, and it was all based in this tiny little shop, and like it was such a bottle episode of a thing, and then all of a sudden,
World
like
domination.
the actual main character dies, and then like King Kong status gets climbed to the roof
Yeah.
of the skyscrapers, and there's just bombs going off every. I
It's
don't like that
incredible.
as much. I think that the happy ending works on this, and normally I would say otherwise, but it just works. I don't know why.
I mean, I think the world domination ending is great because that's clearly what should happen.
Yes,
That's
because
exactly
at
what
the
I
beginning,
was gonna
at the
say.
beginning they did say that the alien life form,
mhm.
came to Earth and all this, and it was a mysterious plant. Yeah, I get that. I do
Yeah.
get that.
Like it's supposed to be a critique on capitalism and consumerism, and like that's why it's like, oh, all these people are buying this plant because they're too foolish to know better, and then
They want something
the world
pretty.
gets dominated.
Would you say
so
this is an
easily.
anti-establishment movie?
Oh
Nathan?
yeah, come on, say yes.
Hit the points, hit the points, hit the points. Nathan needs more.
Set my average higher, please.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like anti-establishment because it is
Oh,
not
yeah.
against any established order. It is simply against human nature.
Would you say
So
that?
it is just basically a critique on human nature in a capitalist system.
Do you think when Frank Oz, when writing this, said disrespect your surroundings, wrote it on a paper, put a circle around it, and just started drawing out from there?
Did he make it a Day to Remember breakdown with it too?
Yes. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
But as for the endings, the first one I watched was the world domination one where the plants win at the end, and then the second time when I watched it on HBO was when I watched. I was like, "What the heck is going on here?" and got the good ending. I like the other one so much more. I like it when a movie gives you an ending or something you didn't expect, but it makes sense because once you think about it at the end, this little guy who like doesn't know what's going on just gets in way too over his head,
yeah.
and just his hubris would get the better of him in this situation. And once it just gets so out of hand that like this plant just gets so big, like he couldn't control it. Nobody could control
it. It was
it.
very clear in my mind from the beginning. It's like, this guy is not going to win whatever situation
No.
is about to unfold.
doesn't have the heart for it.
plant
He's never won a
wins.
situation in his whole life by the looks
Yeah.
of him. So.
And then just like
Like,
past,
he doesn't have what it takes.
no, not at all. But past that, like if I believe it or not, just the ending where like the plants are like crashing through all the buildings and how they're not CG is just awesome. Like I love that. That like they're all like the real plants. Like get into the puppetry part of it now. I watched some stuff on the side with it, and like it's all real stuff. Like they had like 3 or 4 different Audrey 2s. I can't remember. There was one of which I think was the biggest one that they had at the end, where they had the fight in the shop or whatever. But for the ending, where they had the ones crashing through, they built like this little miniature town or whatever for the plants to actually go through and that kind of thing. And another interesting part about that is that. During the my favorite and I think best song of it, the "Feed Me Seymour" song, where they're actually like singing to each other and stuff. When they did that, they had to film that at like 12 or 15 frames per second, something like that. So when they did it, they had all the like they had like I forgot what he said, some like 4 or 5 different puppeteers like controlling each part of the mouth to like open it and stuff to form words.
Yeah.
And they had to like film it that slow, and they had to sing it in slow motion. So the part that we saw was like them singing in slow motion, but they sped it up, so we didn't know that. And then they had the song going over top it. So I thought that was absolutely incredible because it looks amazing when you see it on screen. Because like the lips are pulling in the ways of the words, and everything they did about it's amazing. Like the inside of the mouth of the thing is absolutely terrifying. And like when you see the plants, like when it sings that song at the end during the fight, and it has them singing like out loud, like those little baby plants on the side too. I was just in awe the entire time.
Yeah, none of that stuff matters to me.
I don't care about it.
It doesn't matter. It's,
Y'all are
It's
crazy.
well, let me put it this way. It's neat.
it is neat, and for '84, that's cool, and I'm glad that they got the Muppets guy to do it. I think he's
The
probably
Muppets guy.
Frank Oz is kind of like a legendary puppet dude, all things
Oh,
considered.
yeah.
that's totally fine.
But all that aside, but for our movie experience, I'm just going to group us in on this category. I guess
Yeah.
it didn't do much for me. Like it didn't help to improve the movie for me.
It's an achievement in cinema. I don't know how
I
you
totally
couldn't
get
appreciate
it. And,
something
and
like
I
that.
was sitting here preaching Matrix last week. Like I understand that for its time, like that's great.
No, it still holds up to this day, though. The level of like artistry displayed and the craftsmanship that they did, like, is unparalleled.
No,
even today.
the tech does, but the movie itself is.
Yeah,
no,
that's the thing. Like
this is kind of where we're going on
those
that part.
puppets have been in movies, I'm sure before, and like they made a whole series about it, obviously. But like, it's like I like the fact that they had a lot of hands behind the scenes doing that. That's cool. But at the same time, like, you had to get the movie going. You had to get the movie, you know, evolved. Like, yeah, it starts with a small plant, got bigger and got bigger. I'm glad that they were busting through the walls at the end. Like, I totally agree with all that. It's really cool.
I'm waiting for the butt.
But it's just, like, we'll get into the fat and thick and all that stuff later, I guess. But that's where I have to critique it a little bit more because,
With how?
like, I'll get into it.
So fat, thick, perfectly
Are we
thin.
doing that now?
Yeah, we're here.
We haven't even talked about the music yet.
I talked about the music.
No.
That's all that matters. So anyway, fat.
So,
no, I'm kidding.
but okay, so what about the music, John? Did you just not like the doo-woppy kind of feel? Did you think it was like not necessary for the plot, or
the musical aspect of it I thought was fine. I mean, it makes sense throughout the whole film. It's very much a movie that is set to be a screenplay, a set of sort, right? that doesn't bother me at all. The music's genre and sound just didn't hook me. Like, if
Okay, that's fair.
if I'm tying it to something like Sing Street or something like that. Sing Street was a movie that is, like, pretty average on nature for me, but only went above because I was like, man, this soundtrack actually slaps. In the reverse, it's the same situation with Little Shop. It's a musical, but, you know, so much of the core element of the movie I don't like because of its genre, and it just doesn't land for me. So I was like, okay. I think the other biggest parts of it was just that it just feels very 80s-y, and, like, 80s can't be in its own nature, which... I mean, it is a period piece of its time.
One thing I've got a question for is that might be related to that. Do you all feel like this was a movie where the locations were built for the movie? Because to me, this feels more like
it was
there's
a
a
set?
lot of movies of that era where clearly they built and detailed sets for the movies in a way that most modern film now tends to go for on-location shooting and then making changes on location. I really like the feel of a very, like, artistically handcrafted world,
Set,
like, as far as
Yeah.
the
Like it's a
set
set
and
for a
stage
play.
and everything, yeah.
I would... Yes and no, because Skid Row...
about that.
It doesn't feel like an original set for... Like, it doesn't feel like this is a whole new set I've never seen before. This feels like any, like, New York-style set, like Rent or something like that. Like,
it felt like Stomp.
right, Rent, Stomp, any
or
New
Rent,
York-style
yeah.
musical, like, thing
Yeah.
like that. It felt like that could have been the same set, and they just changed, like, the musicals, and I wouldn't know any different. Granted, musicals are not my biggest thing, and maybe, like, the Rent and Stomp fans out there are like, you fool!
Yeah.
It looks nothing like this, and you're maybe right, but as,
I'm the
like...
same way. I
yeah.
just spit that out there because I've seen a little bit of these, and
Right, I've seen
you
enough to
see,
be
like
like-
the balconies. You know, you see those fire escape things.
Exactly.
It didn't look like it was made specifically for this movie, which is not a bad qualm. It's just
It's something I really don't put a lot of stock into when I'm watching the film, to be
Yeah.
honest. But it has that... In that way, I do like that it feels like it's a set that's meant to be, like, this could be so easily translated to, you know, like, Broadway or something like that, because it is a set play thing,
Yeah.
though. So that
And-
translates well for me.
But yeah, like, I was just thinking as far as, like, feeling campy, to me, like, part of that campy feel is just the way it feels like
Yeah.
a stage.
yeah.
And I don't know, I just appreciate that kind of stuff. I went to, like, the Warner Brothers tour at some point.
That's cool.
Oh.
And saw a lot of those stages where they've, like, filmed all that sort of
That's
stuff, like
awesome.
the little tiny towns that they've built and all that. And I don't know, it just kind of increased the appreciation
I
of
bet
it
so.
for me. So.
Yeah.
I never thought about it like that. I never thought about the set itself, but I agree. Like, I'm agree with you because obviously I really like the movie, but I think that, like, it does feel like the sets were constructed for this movie, especially talking about Skid Row. I mean, the whole song about Skid Row is like about like how drab and dreary and how awful it all is there, and like that the setting reflects that perfectly. And I mean, every set was crafted for it. I mean, the one where the girl sings that song about Suddenly Seymour. That's the one where it has that, like, vision or whatever. I mean, that was obviously constructed, like,
Yeah.
specifically for something like this because
That
it's their
vision-
ideal home that,
Yeah,
like,
that was a different
has
one.
everything they wanted.
Yeah, so there's a
Suddenly
whole neighborhood you can go through to where it's like a fake suburb, and they've used different houses in this fake suburb
For different
so many
movies?
different movies
Cool.
and films.
That's
and
so
TV
neat.
shows.
Yeah.
Like, this stuff gets reused all the time.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
While I was there, they were filming some TV show too. Like, they put up all these, like, red lights and stuff basically to tell you, like, you can't go this way, don't make noise here because we're, like, filming right now
Yeah.
around the corner.
Hmm.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
As far as, like, the music overall, I didn't really touch on it at all earlier, and, like, the whole movie vibe. Like, I thought the music was pretty cool. Like, I thought it was pretty good. But also, like, the movie itself didn't feel like it moved along very much because, like I said, it was basically just in this little area, this little alleyway almost.
That's a musical, though.
No, I get it, and
That's-
when you translate it so many times from so many different platforms, like, it's fine what it was. It was fine, but, you know, also to Dylan's point, like, that music really has to hit when you're looking at the exact same scene every single time. When you're looking at the Honey I Shrunk the Kids guy with that same facial expression,
Yeah.
you know, like, that's literally the whole time. And, you know, like, the shop owner was pretty okay. I fucking hated Audrey. She was the
Yeah.
worst person
Audrey
in this
won.
movie.
Did you really not like the voice that she was putting on? That's
hope
one
that was a
thing that was a
voice.
little
I hope that
off-putting,
was-
but
Yeah,
otherwise,
I
like, yeah.
agree.
It-
Like, she was definitely playing a character,
She
and
had to
like
have been.
by a character, like specifically a type of like character theatrically.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
I have a
that's-
feeling she just didn't have a voice at the end of every single day.
No, there's
She
no way. She was chugging,
But-
honey. Like, been there.
But yeah, so like to
poor
Dylan's
chest.
point,
Yeah.
like,
Pushed
like
into her neck.
when you have a certain movie and you have, you know, like the music aspect that's screaming in your face, like that has to do a lot, and then some of that background stuff too of the acting and the characters have to really sell you too. This movie did fall a little bit short on some of those things, but I'm ready to get into the other stuff if you guys are.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've got one closing note before we get into
Sure.
the fat thin. Is that I mean, it
Can't
definitely
agree
feels
with any of it.
my.
well,
I
you've
feel
been
like
talking the most, so
yeah, I feel like my biggest struggle going in after this movie is said and done is that I think I probably like it more in its original medium. I like it well, I guess in the original adapted in person medium of like of a music, like not a musical, like a play, like you
Yeah,
know, like
like
a
a
Broadway
stage
play. or something.
production.
Yeah, as a stage production, something like that. I feel like it would make a lot more sense here. But when you put it into the movie sense, it just felt like you were trying to put it into the shape that it didn't really belong in. Like there's so much time I had. My biggest gripes with it was I was like, this feels more like a set play being recorded rather than a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that was a hard way for me to kind of get through. Even by the end, it just still felt like it was just, oh, they just recorded it. And I'm like, I don't know, I just watched Hamilton recently, and I feel like Hamilton translated really well, but that's because it didn't try to be a movie, it was being what it was. This was a movie trying to be something that it wasn't to me, and I don't know, that was a big trouble for me. But let's get into fat, thin, perfectly fit segment. You know it, you love it, perfectly fit, it works. Fat, we'd cut it. Thin, we'd add. Mason.
I think this movie was fat. The main qualm that I think I had with this movie
It's
was,
an hour and a half.
no, but it's a play. Anyways,
Oh my
you could watch
gosh.
YouTube clips for some of these things, and like, there's not a whole lot of story in between. But anyways, that's fine. Where it gets fat was as soon as Seymour packs his bags to like leave. You know, Audrey finally agrees to skedaddle with him.
Oh, I know exactly what scene you're going to
Yes.
talk about.
So as soon as he was like leaving, and he was trying to sneak out, he had his bags packed, he was leaving, and then Audrey too woke up, and then like after that point, I hate to say this, but I was just like over it. Like I was hoping that it was going to end right there, because at that point that was his way, that was everything that he wanted. He wanted to get away from Audrey too. He wanted to run off with Audrey. He wanted to get the hell out of that shop and, spend some of that money that he's had. And all it took was for Audrey too to wake up and be like, hey, come on man, one more go. Just give me that one last fix. And of course he didn't have any, because the whole movie he was just pricking his fingers. So he had to run to the shop. And then all after that, everything just went haywire. And I'm not saying that the movie was less because of that, but that's where I clicked off.
So you think that like bad people should get what they want at the end? Is that what you're saying? Because that's basically what you're saying. If you're
think-
saying that like he packs his
I
bags
think Audrey
and they
too
should
was
get
kind
off,
of the bad guy, because he was the alien that was eating people.
but
or
he's the
eating
one that
blood.
like helped and aided the situation to improve his own life, no
I
matter
agree.
the cost and whatever it was.
So I think there could be a slight discussion into the fact of how naive and how simple-minded was this character to have
Super.
been so easily led along
Swayed.
to. Like, to be fair, I do feel like this character didn't have a chance. Like, not from the start.
No, it feels like the character is gonna do that because that character's that.
Dunce.
Right, but
Hey, don't.
as a viewer, it does get frustrating being like, all right, this is like the 9th person that you're gonna have to feed it. Like, at what point do you just walk away? You finally got what you want. Just bail, man.
He knows the morality of the situation, though. The whole song about feed me is about the fact that, like, I want you to feed me blood. I need people. Like, that dentist guy, he's got more than enough. Like, he's fine. And Seymour's like, no, like, I have so many reservations. That's a big line in the song. So he knows that it's wrong, but then he sees him hit Audrey, and then he's like, he flips a switch, and then he doesn't even do the killing. But the shopkeeper, he does willingly play a part in the murder, because Audrey too is waking up behind the guy, and he's like, Audrey too is like, you know what's gonna happen. And like Seymour has the chance to be like, get out of the way or something, and he's like, he's gonna make my life worse if I don't do something. So, I'm not gonna do anything.
I mean, that's clearly, like, although there's not enough emphasis put on it, that's clearly a very bad moment, because this guy had taken him in
Yep.
as, like, a orphan child, and he
As a
was just
figure.
willing to feed him to the plant.
Right.
But I do see it as like he is a bit simple-minded in the fact that like he's like, oh, this person's gonna hurt my life in a little way, and if he just like doesn't do it, that's fine. I don't realize that he's gonna be gone forever and stuff like that. But still, there like he is technically still a bad person. So back to your point, Mason, roundabout. Like that part at the end does need to play out because it needs to show that like there are consequences for your
I
actions.
totally get it. I'm not saying that the movie would have been better if like after that it was just credits. Like I get that because you don't know what happens to the plant, you don't know what happens to the world. I'm just saying that like me myself, I just turned off because up until that point it was entertaining enough, but then this simple-minded character Audrey was just so awful. Like I'd had enough. So I think if I was to trim any of it, it would be probably a lot of her character, and that's their fault. Like I'm sorry, that is casting right there. They made her to be awful. I guess they succeeded, but they knew what they were getting themselves into.
Casting less so character decision, yeah. I mean, because the actress is only going to work with
character.
what they
Oh yeah, I'm
give her.
sorry. Yeah, not
character
casting.
decision.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
writing.
Yeah.
Anyways,
that's fair.
But yeah, I guess trim her down and maybe the rest of it's okay. Maybe take him a little bit off the notch of that simple-mindedness and that just naiveness. I don't know, but it just seems like I was tired of it at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I stuck with it, but I was just like, maybe this last 30 minutes will be quick. Maybe.
Fair. I don't want to say full on fat because an hour and a half didn't feel painful, but it's chubbier for me just because I'm on the perception that I'm like this parts of this movie just chugged for me, and that's the problem. Like if you don't like the music on this film, then all right, then the musical parts are just going to be like, okay, here we go, come on, let's get through this 4-minute segment. And the ones that weren't really like narrative heavy, so to speak, those ones are I'm like, I don't know. You don't let me edit this film ever. The point, because it's just like I don't like this. I'm taking everything. You know what I leave? I leave a 7-minute skit of Bill Murray and Steve Martin as the dentist, and then I would leave that.
That wasn't uplifting.
Good film critique.
Right.
That was uplifting.
But it is good film critique. You're right. So thank you. But exactly the point. It's a chubby film for me because the runtime. It went on longer than what I wanted, and that's at the end of the day what it's going to be like. Again, if I'm going to edit and cut here and there, I'm not really going to say what I would cut because, again, at the end of the day, I would only cut parts that I wouldn't like. But again, you wouldn't let me edit it because I don't like this movie on paper in general. So there's not really a lot of extra critiquing and giving to say I would cut here, add this, do this. I would just make a different movie. You wouldn't let me edit this movie. I mean, that's all it comes down to. But yeah, that's where I land on it. It's chubby just because the runtime is just long enough to make it feel longer than an hour and a half.
I think it was just the play aspect. I don't think it was the movie's fault. It's just the fact that this was not even a long play, but just a drawn out play that, like you guys had said, had transitioned between different things after all these years. And by the time it was, time to film and time to put it all together, it was like, all right, so we have to piece this together somehow?
Right.
How are we going to keep everyone together?
Narratively, if I'm going to be super simplistic on it, I'm just be like, as soon as Audrey 2 gets as big as Audrey 2 gets, the movie stops because Audrey 2 eats everybody. Like, why the dicking around at that point where it's already, like,
why is it not
massive? It's taking up a whole room already.
It's literally the room.
Right, before it starts getting all
You could
that.
say, too, that there's definitely a point where it's big enough that it could eat whatever it wants.
Uh-huh.
And there are tons of people going in and out of that shop.
Yep, all the time.
But, I mean, ultimately, this is a movie adaptation of a musical.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's, like, that's not what it's about.
Yeah.
It's not about being a realistic, like, what-if story.
It's fantastical because the musical elements are always going to put into that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Obviously, I enjoy the movie. I'm not even going to say it's thin because, I think it did what it needed to in the runtime that I had, and I think an hour and a half is perfect for it. So I want to say fit because, the songs don't drag on longer than they need to. The scenes, I think, don't drag out longer than they need to. The only scene, I think, kind of drags on a little bit, but I kind of enjoyed...
Mm-hmm.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
That's what I thought Mason was going to say because he was tiptoeing right around it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The phone call
Maybe.
scene?
Nope. I was
okay.
actually gonna go with if you watch the other ending where the plants take over. I think that could have been cut down a little bit because it does drag on a little bit, but it's kind of like Transformers kind of fun, where you're like, this is pretty cool, seeing everybody die, and like you're seeing like these big old plants move, the puppets move, and stuff falling apart. It's kind of cool, but it kind of drags on a little bit. But that's a very minor thing that, again, is in an edition that you can't even see.
Oz was just wanting to flex at that point. He's like, I had all these puppets and the little minis all set up. He's like, oh, I'm gonna get everything.
Well, tear it down.
Yeah.
I'll agree that the music was actually like pretty on par with like the amount of time that each song had. Like
they're like
there was
2
only,
minutes.
Yeah, there was
two
only
and a half.
one. I think Suddenly Seymour was pretty long.
They did that song twice.
I know. Well, maybe that was it too. That
Yeah.
they did it twice, but
And-
yeah, nothing
yeah.
seemed long over those.
Probably my least favorite song.
Really, that was my favorite.
Really?
Yeah, could you not? Because you know why? Because Audrey at that point had been speaking in that voice the whole movie, and then she just starts belting out, and I'm like, oh, thank God that was
Yeah.
all fake. Like,
Oh, she has pipes.
yeah, she could sing because she sang another song that
somewhere
was in
that's
that voice.
somewhere that's green.
Yeah,
Mm.
that
I
song
think that's
sucked.
Because I remember
It sucked.
I showed him a clip of it. I remember the first time I watched it, like the somewhere that's green thing came on, and I've watched Family Guy for years, and there's a scene from Family Guy where Herbert, the like pedophile old man, gets with Chris, the kid, and they do the somewhere that's green over it, and I never got the reference
So
for the longest
weird.
time. And I remember I sat up while I was watching. I was like, I have to text my little brother and tell him I found what this reference is, and he was like, oh man, I can't believe it. It's pretty cool. Nathan, go ahead.
I'd say this movie is pretty fit. I am gonna point out what I kept thinking everybody else was gonna point out.
That it was just silly.
The phone call scene where Seymour is not Seymour. Audrey
two.
2 is calling
Audrey
Audrey
one.
1. That takes a while. Like, it's him fussing
getting the
around with
coin.
like,
Yeah.
like he's like reaching into the till to get the coin and stuff. I'm like, what kind of operation has a coin operated phone inside their building? I mean, maybe of the era, maybe that's what you did. Maybe
Yeah.
you didn't have like a phone bill that you were paying. Maybe you were literally paying into this machine, and then like the people would come around and collect the money
good
out of the
point.
machine
Yeah, that's
that
a
was
good
in your
point.
house.
This is New York.
I
at
do
the
feel
time.
like that was a thing. I feel like I've heard of that before, so I'll say that's probably why this happened. But it didn't have to take so long.
But they didn't have to have it in this movie.
And it's so silly, like how like she sees a talking gigantic plant talking on the phone, and she's like, "Whoa, I should get in closer and see what's going on." Why? It's terrifying. Get a
Yeah.
flamethrower.
Yeah, I mean that again. All these characters
Are-
are
Yeah.
very
Dense.
naive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They're plant
foolish.
food waiting to happen. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah.
He sure looks like plant food to me. Yeah. Exactly. Do a little skedat.
Yep.
A little doo-wop.
Well, do bop bop ba da da bop bop ba da da. Come on, guys, you're not helping me out at all.
Nah,
Here or
I
not.
don't remember it enough.
I don't either. I can do the feed
I was
scores.
just making it up as I go. I don't know. Anyway, let's get in the scores.
Nope, talk some more.
Nathan, you start.
I like a lot about this movie. I think it is a good musical adaptation to movie, personally. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I like the set work. I like all the puppetry. The acting is kind of spotty. So I'm probably going to land at like a 7.5 with it. There's some ways in which it could have been better, but I think it was pretty good. I like the music. It had, like, as I was going through this movie, part of me was thinking, like, what about this movie does Price like? I think this movie does
It's an
comedy
interesting critique.
pretty well. Like, it's got a lot of very funny moments to it, and the whole premise is pretty comical too. There's a lot I can see why this was a musical that you actually enjoyed, as opposed to
Good point.
many of the other ones that have been seen.
Sing Street I was okay with.
Yeah.
I didn't really like the like exaggerated like we ride off in a boat and get ran over.
They die.
But, yeah.
Dylan only put that into you guys' heads.
They die.
It didn't happen.
They-
There's
they
no
don't
way that they
die.
don't die. They
Here's
drive
what-
off into the ocean on that little
Tiny
Bingy
dinghy.
dinger.
It's a dinghy.
bro.
I didn't even know they made boats like that.
They get out far enough where the gas runs out, the sun hits them. If the sharks didn't get them, the big boats do. Like,
Years from now, I want to be like pitching this movie. Somebody like, yeah, and they even die at the end.
Yeah.
They're gonna watch
You
and be
ever-
like,
you ever
no.
seen Me and Earl and the Dying Girl?
All right.
Right? Yeah. I want to go next. So,
Oh, okay.
watching this movie,
Cut
my
line.
wife loves this movie. Didn't know that. As soon as I started watching it, I told her I was watching it. She ran in there and sat down.
And she never watches movies.
She
with
never
you.
watches my movies.
she hates movies.
They have a great relationship.
And Mason.
So good. Anyways, so the whole time Nathan, you've pointed this out, where you'll be watching something, and then the people that you're watching it with will say, "Oh, this is the best song. Oh, this is the best part."
I hate when people
This happened
do
a few
that.
times. Okay, so this.
Are you
this
watching? Are you
particular
watching?
song- No, that didn't happen. But just
Oh.
saying like, "Oh, this song's really good. I really remember this." And so I had this pretty high expectation for most of these songs, and most of the songs were pretty darn good. I enjoyed them. Like I said, Suddenly Seymour is probably my favorite, if that tells you anything.
I'm
Like, it
so
was
surprised.
Just, well, it's that or the Dentist song. You called that
Dennis
one.
was so fun.
that one was good.
Yeah.
So like the expectations were a little bit shaky for me, but the things that I did like about this movie, it looked like Pee-wee's Playhouse, a lot, and I've been wanting to say that. I just couldn't remember it. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah.
Like the reclining chair that's talking, all the crazy shit that's happening all over the place. It's a lot like that.
They used puppets.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I
And
guess.
it's music.
Yeah.
Anyways,
It's Pee Wee's Playhouse. I see it.
but
Okay. I didn't see
anyways,
it, guy.
like
Whatever.
some of the comical points that
Not
Nathan said were perfect.
I like
As
him.
soon as they put that little plant out in the windowsill, who's gonna want to come by and look at a dumb little plant or something like that? And then the guy just comes
Immediately,
in.
guys.
I guess. Well, I got a
So
$100
good.
bill. I can't bring $100. Oh, I guess I'll just have
Guess
to
I'll
buy a
take
double.
two. Yeah. It had a lot of good funny parts. One of the parts was Steve Martin. Who came in just riding that thing, did that huge jump and just
Oh, yeah.
stopped it, like,
Yeah.
stopped right there. It was just a lot of silly stuff. Bill Murray was great. I give this movie a 6.5. It shined dimly, I think. The music was pretty okay. If the characters were better, I swear to God, I would have liked this movie. Because like even the shop owner had some charm to him and some humor to him, and him dying was kind of okay with me. It's just this.
Need a clap.
I don't know.
You don't need to clap. No clap.
No claps. Stop
Yeah.
clapping.
Clapping.
So pretty much that's how I land on that. Just a 6.5.
Cool.
You're going now?
Yeah.
Okay.
This movie's a 6 for me. I agree with a lot of stuff that Mason said with that. Overall, at its core, it's a musical, and the music didn't really entrance me. I didn't like it. It's not something I'd put on my Spotify playlist at all. And it makes it really hard to kind of drag through that. But aside from that, you have a very campy 80s film at its core, and most of it I didn't find funny or really endearing outside of like Steve Martin or Bill Murray's parts. Those parts I really enjoyed. There's small little moments here and there, but overall it was a harder movie for me to kind of just digest and get on board with. It didn't, for me, it didn't feel like it made the good leap from going from a play to a movie. You see the little cracks in the armor, and for me it just didn't feel like it translated really well for me. So yeah, I just landed at a 6.
Okay. Well, before I say my score, it's not a 10. It's definitely not a 10. But go ahead and get started. So, like, I've kind of had an affinity for puppets for some reason in my life. I don't know why.
Oh, that's you need
Can
to
we
break
clip
that?
that?
Cut it there. But I've always had for some reason. When I was really little, I remember my mom was letting me watch Barney. And there was a little puppet duck. His name was Clarence. Yes, I remember that little terrible demon. And it was like it chased the
Holy
kids
shit.
around, something like that. It terrified me. I still remember this dream I had of lava where this duck came and got me. Anyway, scared of puppets for the longest time for some reason. And back to Little Shop, when I was little, it's his therapy card, guys. It's his therapy card.
Give me a call. You've got some stuff to figure out.
But
I know
anyway,
people.
a couple years later, I can't remember how old I was, we have a little theater in my hometown, 2,000 city population, and they did Little Shop, and Mom was like, maybe he'll like that. Went to go see that, just gotten over my paranoia of the duck puppet, and then I see this ginormous plant puppet coming out and like eating people. Terrified me to death. Stayed the night at a friend's house, thought the plant was coming to get me. I called my mom at about 2 in the morning to come pick me up because I was absolutely terrified. Yeah, still may need that card.
He was 16.
This was yesterday.
Yeah. We were the friends.
But anyway, a couple months ago, a girl saying, she was like, what about A Little Shop of Horrors? Have you seen that for your movie podcast? I was like, no. Wound up watching it, got over my fear of the plant finally.
This is the-
And
Exposure therapy through this movie.
really enjoyed it, and then saw it again for this and really enjoyed it again. I don't see all the critiques about like this doesn't translate from a play to a movie, because I think like there's some kind of trivia fact, can't remember what it is, but it's like this is like one of the highest like money that like Warner Brothers or whatever had paid to make a movie to this time. Like it was a very expensive movie to make, and you can tell from like the puppetry I think is absolutely outstanding. I have to give many props to that, because like unlike what Mason says, I don't believe it's going to age at all. People are going to watch this in like 50, 60 years and be like, this is an amazing feat. I would honestly say of human achievement, just because like the fact that they could get this done with this many people and put that much hard work into it, kind of like stop motion, how there's so much work put into that you just appreciate what's going on. I think that'll be the same, and that'll translate to this movie as well. And then all the effects they put in there are pretty incredible to make it a true movie experience. An hour and a half runtime really helps for it. Again, the characters, I get that critique. I mean, they're one-note characters because it's a musical. Like, you're not expecting a whole lot from them. Sing Street, are they very multidimensional? I mean, what's the first one we had to watch? Whatever.
Musical?
Hugh Jackman.
Oh, the Greatest Showman.
They're very one-note characters. Like, it's a musical. You're not expecting, like...
Yeah, but you like to look at Hugh Jackman and his wife. Who was it?
So, like, you don't need eye candy. Like, use your ears.
I just want to leave that sentence.
Use your ears rather than your eyes, I guess.
Like, that's... I
Emily
think that's
Blunt,
They wouldn't pick just an atrocious dude to put on, Hamilton now. Like, it's all about, like, the looks and everything.
Well,
But that's not how it was back in the 80s. They were like, oh, like, we're going to make an animated movie. We're going to pick people that have good voices for animation. Like, we're picking people that can sing decently well. We don't have to pick somebody stupidly handsome to put on screen. And it kind of matches more of the Skid Row aesthetic to have somebody, like, you don't want Hugh Jackman in a little shop in the 80s being like, wow, I'm kind of simple-minded and I don't get what I want.
I don't know if they play him as Rick Moranis' Buddy Holly style and just make him like this little wimpy guy, but he's like totally shredded jacked. I find that really funny.
But it doesn't do the movie any favors. And for that reason, I already kind of like, I love the music. I like the kind of doo-woppy, soulish kind of feel from the Plant. I like that. I really like his voice. And for all that, I'm giving this movie a 9. It's something I want to buy and enjoy for a long time down the road. And they were wondering as well, like, why I picked this movie in the first place. Because, like, it's a musical, which I historically have not liked. And what was the other reason? It's a musical.
It's comedy, I guess?
No, you love comedies.
I pick comedies all the
You
time.
exclusively pick
Step
comedies.
Brothers is my only 10. Like,
You pick That's not true. Tim and Eric.
Nope. Go ahead. What was the other one? Like, I can't remember the critiques. It doesn't matter. But
Old, yeah. You don't like old stuff.
I haven't picked many old movies. That's a fair point.
You're not a fan of older movies.
But its age definitely doesn't show, and the technical aspect that they have with the plans outshines the fact that it's old. It's something that'll translate kind of like the dinosaurs used in Jurassic Park. Like, even though it's old, it's gonna age.
The innovative keys don't age, but like the movie itself, I mean, definitely feels like an '80s movie no matter what you look at.
Yeah, but it needs to, but it doesn't really look that bad. But anyway, the musical aspect, I mean, I enjoy good music, or music that at least hits with me, and this movie definitely did. And yeah, I mean, I just enjoy the movie, and I love the dark tone of it throughout the whole movie. Like he's like feeding people to a plant from outer space.
Pricking his fingers for just the blood draining.
I
that.
think
I'll agree.
Time anybody's mentioned that this plant is from space.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is from space. Like the eclipse happens, and like that's what the whole last song is called. Like, I'm a bad mother from outer space.
If you wanna, on my very last closing thought on this, is anybody else really disturbed by the kissy face that the plant makes when he's trying to get the? None of that made me feel comfortable.
Or what about when the he takes the plant into the radio station? We didn't talk about the radio station at all either.
Oh yeah, admittedly that's a pretty fun.
That was so funny. I don't.
John Farmer.
But John something.
Oh gosh.
It's some famous guy, but like first he brings the plant in,
it's not Chris Farley.
And the receptionist like bends over, and I guess she's on her period or something. Because like he's got the blood.
I didn't even think that far. I
didn't even think that far. I thought he was just trying to like bite her butt or something.
Right, like I thought he was just trying to
smelled
eat her.
blood because like he went like he did like a kind of sniffing thing.
It totally could be on that extra layer, but to me it just felt like he was just trying to eat her, and
that could be it too.
But eating butt didn't really become trendy until recently, so...
John Candy.
And then, like, him, like,
John Candy,
the radio station guy, like, woo, woo, and, like, doing all that goofy stuff.
Wild Willie.
So funny. And the thing that, like, I like the most about this movie is definitely the dark tone of it, because when I watched it the first time and saw that the plants take over and, like, the good guy doesn't win, he shouldn't. Like this is
Yeah, I
what
mean, he
should
wasn't
happen.
Well, if he was
guy.
a good guy, then
I
maybe he
really,
won.
really liked it. That's why I kind of got a little irate about Mason's. Like, he just packs his bags and gets away with his girl. And
Soy
then,
boy beta cuck over here just sitting here
Literally
feeds
one
the
foot
plant.
out the door.
and then
Yeah.
just leave this time bomb sitting in the plant shop
Fuck
to
it.
kill everybody.
Fuck
Fine,
it.
he's ate like
He's been living in that basement for 20 years.
Well, I'll tell you what,
Hell
he's
out.
probably not going to live another year after Audrey 2 anyway.
That's
because
fine.
yeah. Audrey
That's
2 is
fine.
already on.
That's the end of the world.
That's fine.
Listen, Harry Potter didn't look back from the Dursleys when he went to
No.
fucking Hogwarts. This guy
No,
shouldn't look back
no.
when he's 1 foot out the door.
No.
Well,
That's
those
all.
plants are going to come find him though once he gets out.
I mean,
the
that's
door.
fine, but he needs to get out the door first, you know?
Yeah,
And it's gonna be like a War of the Worlds situation where like you can't go upstairs because the plants are gonna eat you. They were thinking about doing a sequel to this for some
They did.
reason, by the way.
It's called
What?
The Happening. The plants kill everybody.
Oh, that's so. I'm glad you said that. I
Oh,
love
man.
It happening.
Isn't that with Mark
loves
Wahlberg?
it.
Wait, like
Wally!
really?
Yeah, no, it's legit.
It's probably
been
one of
a
my
while.
top 3 M. Night Shyamalan movies.
Oh, if we're just sticking
And
Shyamalan,
it
that's...
gets shit on
Avatar
so
being number
much.
1, right?
No.
No.
Oh, I was hoping so. That's my number 1.
All right, let's wrap it around, guys. This has been a long video. Let's get
Yes,
into
it
it.
has.
So, what are we going to be watching next week?
Mason.
Slumdog Millionaire. It's an Indian flick. You might have heard about it from 2000.
I do like our genre hopping. We're definitely
Dude, we're all over the place. Let's
We are
go.
all over the place.
crazy
Oh,
movies.
Matrix.
oh,
this,
all over the place. Genre.
that.
All I know is Little Shop is not getting movie of the month. Count on that.
Probably won't.
If we do categories, it could probably stand more of a chance.
If it won, yeah, it'll win musical of the month.
No, it won't.
Plant
It
based
absolutely
musical.
won't.
Yeah.
What other musical would be in there?
Slumdog Millionaire. Next week, guys. Tune in.
Tune in, check it out. We'll see you then. Make sure if you like the channel and subscribe. That stuff really helps us. Please do. We're so poor. We spend all of our money getting all those guests on the show.
See these plants?
And these plants.
Yeah,
We
cost so
bought these
much.
plants just for this.
Yep.
Guys, help us. We're filming out of a basement in Iraq. Please. That's our show. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, I don't need to go long.
Oh, yeah.
That's still one of the weirdest ones I think I've ever had to review.